understood what was going on. The only goddess that actually was not paying attention and she had a bite, was Demeter, because she was very sad. She couldn't find Persephone. So she ate a bite of Pelops by being thrown at Tartarus, which was a special place in the Greek underworld for the worst of offenders. And there he was punished a lake. And there was a tree every time. Nomos did not want Hippodamia to ever get married because an oracle had forewarned him that if he became the most important athletic competition of the ancient Greek world, and basically had a huge impact and created this culture for athleticism as an institution, because there was athleticism before, more specific rules, and was organized events, happening at regular intervals with very specific rules. So in Greece, I mean. He organized, the first Olympics, and to the murder of her father, she introduced the worship of Hera alongside that of Zeus at Olympia, and she organized a competition for females was introduced in honor of that goddess, because the Olympics were happening in honor of Zeus. So there was also a competition, a running race, and this was in honor of Hera, because women, were excluded from the Olympic Games and many other aspects of ancient Greek culture in general. So yes, the land of Pelops, and Pelops also is an ancestor of Agamemnon and Menelaus as well. Of course, some of the most important figures of the epic tradition, the Homeric tradition, Corinthian Gulf, and modern for that starts in the early 13th century AD, and it's what we call the Latin rule of Greece, because in 1204 the Crusaders of the Fourth Crusade they attacked Constantinople, modern day Istanbul, the capital of the Byzantine Empire at the time, and the empire fell, and it was replaced by the Latin Empire of Constantinople with an emperor from the west. It didn't last very long. In 1260, 61, but a lot of Greece, which was divided among the Crusaders, stayed under the rule for much longer periods of time. So it was Venetians, Franks, Florentines, and various baronies, principalities in Greece. To a great extent, they date to this period, post 13th century. And they are the result of the presence of the Westerners here. But a lot of the time in Greece, to a great extent, they date to this period, post 13th century. And they are the result of the presence of the Westerners here. But a lot of the time, the older material was really, it's a very complicated period of our history. What we call the Latin rule, we are not very familiar with it either, but it's very, very difficult anyway to keep track, because there is a lot going on, like the different parts of Greece, different things happen at the same time. It's like, so basically it's just part of our wider, we transition into this new era, Christianity prevails, and we consider that to be the start of the Byzantine chapter of our history until the 15th century, when Constantinople fell to the Ottomans, and so then we have the Ottoman era, and then we have the modern era after the Greek War of Independence, that in the early 19th century. So it's like four different states. A member of the Supreme Court of Athens, the Arias Pavos, from where the apostle preached to the Athenians. Dionysus. So he actually became, according to the tradition, the first bishop of Athens, and he is the patron saint of Athens because he became a. So today, actually, it's Saint Dionysus the Areopagite feast they will, take the icon out, and there will be a litany in the city.
And a procession.
A procession, a litany, yes, sorry. Yes, it just occurred to me that, but anyway, generally speaking, he was disappointed with his reception at Athens, meaning Paul. So after that, he came to Corinth, where he was actually very successful. He stayed for a long time, and he founded the most important early Christian community here in Crete to address. And it's very important that is a very and this contributed to its survival into the next period. And of course, it's one of the oldest languages that are still spoken. And the first people that we know for certain, that were actually were using an early form of the Greek language are the Mycenaeans back in the BC. But then the script that was discovered during the excavations that brought back the Mycenaean civilization to light, and that happened, from the 1870s onwards. So they discovered these records with a script, which was called. Why do you speak linear? Do you read linear? Many centuries of history were added, to the Greek languages. When he was a child, his father was reading to him the Iliad and the Odyssey, and he was very much inspired. And he believed that these were true stories and true people. So he said that, I'm going to prove that this is all true. So he took an early retirement. He made a lot of money. He took an early retirement and decided to dedicate his life and money to, to this, to prove, that Troy existed and Mycenae existed and Agamemnon and all these people that are described not only in the epics but also in later Greek tragedy, because there is often confusion. People think that all of the stories are in the Iliad and the Odyssey. No. The Iliad, for example, stops when Troy falls. There were other sources that were available back then that haven't survived. Okay? So we know the events that followed from the tragedies for the most part. Okay, so Schliemann discovered Troy in northwest modern day Turkey, and then he came here, and he Agamemnon. Of course, there were the people who thought all of this was fictional, and on the other side was Schliemann, who took things too literally. Okay, so a lot of the names that we use to describe the different monuments are the result of this tendency that developed after, Schliemann's discoveries to identify everything with the literary figures. But, is that of the Mycenaean period. And of course, the civilizations is called Mycenaean after Mycenae, which was the most important center. So you have to think that there were various fortified or not necessarily fortified, good opportunity to connect ruled Knossos was actually so the Mycenaean civilization, the first great civilization of mainland Greece, starting from here. So now we are transitioning from Corinthia to the Argolis, these hills that you see here and the narrow street that goes in between. Argos was the most important city in the different parts of Greece. Argos were named after their ship, the Argo in Greek, while this is called Argos, and it's written differently as well. So the Argolis started from much further north of here, under Jason. So this is a different. I was saying about Argos and the plain and all of that. So we are in the plain now. So you see you see a lot of olive trees here, but later on you will see a lot of orange trees, because these are the most. And then further south, the south part of the Argolid region is dominated by a peninsula. We're not going to see that because we're not going to go as far down. But there is the part, the peninsula, that's more sea-oriented, and that's something that it was the case since antiquity. Okay, we will also see Argos from the distance. Yeah, so when we visit the site, all sites, not just that, keep in mind that only water is allowed in the site. No other drinks or food and no smoking. As I told you here, the citadel part is a little steep, but you don't have to go all the way to the top. The top part, after all, is not very well preserved. Okay, the most important part, the site that's Schliemann excavated, is right next to the entrance. Of the citadel, I mean. 5 minutes for someone that has a regular pace. But I'm just saying, because people have different go. And also you will your free time, and we will meet back at the pass on time. I will tell you what time. Self-explanatory. I mean, so don't eat in the site and don't drink Coke or other things. Okay, so you can see some of the orange trees here. So there are 2 regions in Greece that are particularly famous for the production of oranges. Laconia. What is in Laconia? Sparta. Thank you very much. Okay. The dangerous neighborhood. Well, not anymore. And actually, they were very expansionist. They enslaved their neighbors to the west, the Mycenaeans, after a series of wars that most likely happened in the 80s. They were liberated. That did not happen with their neighbors too. A lot of the choices that Argos had to make were dictated by the fact that they had. Almost there. I want you to turn on your hearing. So there is an on and off button at the top. The other one straight ahead. The tube is on the side of the street here to the left. We are going to see that. You cannot see that tube from the street.
Walking and ruin them. So this is called the tomb of Agamemnon, or treasury of Atreus. Atreus was the father of King Agamemnon and his brother Menelaus, and the founder of the Atreid dynasty. I mean, these were all terrible men, but anyway, murderers for the most part. What with the amount of murder there is in the stories of these people, but there is a lot of that in ancient mythology anyway. So let's start out with roughly 1250 BC. This period corresponds with the heyday of Mycenae and the wider Mycenaean civilization. So it stretches between 1600 and let's say 1200 people in a different state. It's called the core dome. It comprises of 2 parts. There are remains of bases or semi-columns that decorated the walls, and they were made of figures. And of course, this triangular space is a matter of engineering for the better interior part. The part that faces inside is the largest. Okay, so let's walk inside now. So this is not access. You can see it's not dome like.
Wo dein Arm, vielleicht ist da so der Ansatz der Mähne beim linken, aber sonst nicht.
Ya la tomé la torre.
Sola. Subito dopo l'entrata centrale dell'Acropoli, sulla destra si trova.
¿Vamos a bajar o qué?
Yo bajo. Y que el zumo, vamos, yo fue zumo, yo quiero de Granada.
You made chili with bacon.
Oui.
But that's sure a great landscape.
For the standards of that period, the world was globalized. So if there was a